everybody, my name is Jin Moon and welcome to iHome Church. For those of you joining us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our email list. Today I would like to start off by thanking everybody who has been an incredible support of iHome Church thus far. Thank you for your emails and thank you for your contribution. We are working each day and night to make sure that we are in constant production in terms of bringing interesting and compelling videos to share with all of you. But I would like to let you know that probably the last 2 weeks and now 2 more weeks is going to be very, very busy because my go-to tech guy, my husband, he's recording his second album, so most of his hours are in the studio. So we'll kind of have to work around his schedule to prepare all the sermons and all the Cooking with Love videos that we have coming your way. So please be patient and we will get them to you as soon as we can. But once again, thank you for being a wonderful participant of our work here at iHome Church. And again, thank you very much. This week, I want to ask the very question that I asked my father many, many years ago. As I have often shared with many of you, I've had these incredible, wonderful moments with my father during fishing season, and it was a wonderful opportunity for me to kind of have my daddy to myself and be able to ask him a whole lot of questions that's been plaguing this little girl's mind. And I remember one day I was asking my dad, Father, where does God live? And my father just kind of looked at me with a big smile, and I continued to ask, does God live up in the clouds? Does he live in a castle? Does he, what does his house look like? And or does he live in the forest? Does he live beneath the ocean? Where is God's house? Where does he live? Where does he exist? And I remember my father pointing a finger straight at my heart. And he said, God lives in your heart. God is not living on the clouds or on the heavens or wherever you think he might be living, but the most precious place that he wants to be is in your heart. So when I was reading through some of his speeches, and my father's quote came to light, and my father asks, where does God exist? He says he is not in heaven, but in our hearts, the center of our hearts. It really kind of made me think about what kind of a heart do I have right now, at this moment? If someone were to take a photograph of my heart, is my heart really the kind of a place that I can welcome God into 24/7 right now? Or, you might want to ask yourself the very question, if someone were to take a photograph of your heart, what would your heart look like? Would it be a place of peace and love and understanding and of nurturing and caring? Or would it be a place of frustration, maybe anger, maybe pain and suffering? And I realized that in the process of this growth or this journey that we have an opportunity to grow in this lifetime, it's a wonderful question to ask every once in a while, because we kind of need to be cognizant of where we are and what is the quality of our heart. if our heart is where God resides, if we are, in essence, the guardians of God's home, because God is living in our hearts. And we are, in essence, God's ambassadors, because it is through our hearts that we represent God to the rest of the world, or to the people that we love. And to God, we are His great connectors, in that through our hearts, expressions of our hearts, to others, we help others connect to our hearts and also to God's heart as well, and in essence experience this bond of eternal love, or true love, as one family under God. And so when I thought about what Father said, that God is not living way up in heaven, but that He is living inside our hearts, and I wanted to, in a way, re-evaluate, or maybe take a quick photograph of where my heart is, what my quality of my heart is. I remember this extraordinary video that was shared to me by a friend on Facebook, and it's a video about Dr. Emoto. And his life research has been on the way water reacts to the human consciousness, or the touch, or picture, or music, or certain sounds. And what he did was take samples of water and exposed it to, for instance, Beethoven's pastoral music, or showed it pictures, certain pictures of perhaps a beautiful forest, or maybe a dark dungeon, and sent it thoughts of gratitude, or sent it a beautiful prayer, and basically froze the water after it has been exposed to different stimuli, such as music, pictures and sounds, and thoughts. And then after freezing the water, took a picture of the kind of water crystals that were formed in response to the different stimuli, for instance, the thoughts, the music, the words, or the emotion that the water was exposed to. And the collection of photographs that he shared in the video is just absolutely astounding. So please take a look. Isn't it incredible? You know, at the end of the video, it reminds us that we are made of water. More than 60% of our body is made of water. So if these samples of water is responding to these thoughts and emotions and pictures and sounds in the way they do on the video, can you imagine what it would do to you and me as a human being if we were constantly exposed to feelings of anger, feelings of frustrations? Can you imagine what the water crystals in our body would look like? Or if we were constantly exposed to feelings of love and of gratitude and of compassion and of really forgiveness, or different incredibly powerful words like this, can you imagine what our water crystals would look like? So when I watch this video, it really makes us realize that because the universe reflects the Creator, which is God, you know, God has this incredible ability as our heavenly parent to really somehow stimulate us to really grow into that eternal and beautiful sons and daughters. But he puts that 5% responsibility in our care. It doesn't matter how supreme, how omnipotent God may be. He cannot do all the homework for us. In that, in the realm of our 5% responsibility, we have an incredible responsibility to really lead our lives and help us grow into powerful, loving, compassionate individuals. Or we hold within our hands the possibility of feeding ourselves with so much anger and negativity that we ultimately destroy this incredible divine gift of a life that God has given to each and every one of us. So when we think about the magnitude of the responsibility that you and I have, it's something that we should not take lightly. So even these simple samples of water that was exposed to a stimuli for a couple minutes responded positively or frightfully negatively to different things that it was exposed to. So we as human beings, we as these divine, incredible creatures that God created us to be, if we decide to inundate our lives with negativity, with frustration, anger, and hatred, sooner or later, all of these emotions are going to catch up with us, and we will fall prey to the victim of the very thing that we do not want to have in our lives. Whereas if we can really work on cultivating this quality of heart that can continually inspire us to grow in ways where we can fully develop and blossom into this divine light that our Heavenly Parent wants us to be, by working on positivity, by working on feelings of gratitude, by practicing love on a daily basis, then we can become something absolutely incredible. And I've seen this firsthand in my workings with many, many different types of people, and in particular, young children. I knew this one young man quite a few years ago, and his parents brought him to me, and they really didn't know what to do with him anymore. And he had so much animosity and so much anger towards God and towards his father and mother and towards the world. He hated everything. I hate God, if there is a God. I hate my parents. I hate my brothers and sisters. I absolutely hate my school. I hate all my teachers. I hate everything. I hate the world. I hate TV. I hate computers, but I can't stop playing it. But I absolutely hate computers. And this child was somebody in the throes of his adolescence, trying to grapple with who he is. And he was certainly an individual that was lost, trying to find who he was, and couldn't really get a sense that he had a clear bearing on what he wanted in his life, or what he wanted in terms of his life plan or career or dreams. And so he was caught in this sphere of negativity that literally consumed him. And even meeting me for the first time, a total stranger, he was just spewing all of these things. And I asked him, after like more than an hour or two of this spewing, I said, that took a lot of energy. And then he just kind of looked at me stunned, and then broke out in laughter. I said, "You hate with such gusto that I could really, really feel your hatred. I mean, you had your veins, coming out to here, and your hands out to there, and your eyeballs popping out at me, and it takes a whole lot of energy. Do you feel more energy when you throw these, negative, hateful feelings out? Aren't you tired at the end of all of this?" And then he just picked up and he said, "Oh, you're just trying to break my train of thoughts." And he just continued on, and he's like, "Well, why? I'm still not finished with you." And then so, we kind of have to sit there, his parents and I, and let him continue on this little verbal assault, as I call it. But, after a while, he really did get tired, because all of this, hand movements and this and that, and he almost literally jumping up and down like a Mexican jumping bean in his chair, because he was so consumed with hatred. He wore himself out, and I said to this gentleman, I said, "Well, thank you for sharing your heart with me, but I believe that there's a whole another part of your heart that I didn't get a chance to meet yet, and that's what I would like to meet." And I said, one of the things that perhaps you don't realize is when you're throwing all of this hatred and anger towards me about how you feel, about how you hate the world and hate your parents and hate your siblings and hate the school, you don't realize that it's all about you. There is no concern about how the world might feel about you, or how I might feel about you at this moment. There is no consideration for what your parents might be feeling. They might be horrified that you're assaulting this stranger in the room with all of your hatred and anger and frustration. Or there is just no concern for the defenseless, the people who are not in this room that you have hated and you have thrown anger towards, that are not even here to defend themselves, And it's all about me, 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 me. I said, one of the things that you might want to think about is just, I'm not asking you to do anything, but just as a simple exercise, try changing one word when it comes to the word me. Take out the letter M, because right now the letter M represents misery for you. You are miserable with your hatred, with your frustration, with your anger. And replace it with a new letter, the letter W. And for me, the letter W represents win-win. When you're dealing with relationships and you are angry and you are consumed with all the things that the whole world is throwing your way, sometimes it helps to see the other's point of view by taking out the word M, that represents a cloud of misery for you, and putting it in the word win, W that represents win-win. How do we turn this relationship, this miserable relationship, into a win-win situation? And, let me give you a simple exercise. Even if you don't believe in what I'm asking you to do, just treat it as an exercise. Because really, the quality of one's heart is expressed through thoughts and speech many times. That translates into actions later on. But it's the thought that is incredibly important that is later expressed in speech and then later in action. So if we can somehow change our thinking, starting with one word, change the me to a we immediately go from just one person against the world into we, the partnership, where we become a partner together with the world, together with our family, together with our community. So it helps us shift our thinking. And instead of thinking that you are doing this to me and therefore I need to make you miserable, think of a way to make both of our lives better. So even if you don't believe in this little exercise that I'm going to ask you to do, please try it. And I said, I'm a huge believer in creating a world of peace. My father, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, came to teach the world about living a life of true love. And I understand that as really building a world of peace. And so when I kind of try to take the most important ingredients that my father has often talked about in creating a world of peace, I treat the word peace as an acronym. And there are 5 simple points that you can reiterate to yourself, or just simply say at the beginning of the day, in the middle of your afternoon, and before you go to sleep. And so to help you understand that you're not alone, it's not you against the world, but we are all part of this one universe. We're all part of one family. And so when you take the word peace and look at it as an acronym, it's made up of letters P-E-A-C-E. And for me, the letter P represents, and it reminds me that God is our heavenly parent. And you don't have to believe in God, or you can say that you don't believe in God, but just try this exercise with me. Just say to yourself that the letter P represents your understanding that God is our heavenly parent. And I said that is extremely important because that becomes the anchor of the boat that you're going to be building. And when we decide that God is our anchor, it becomes our heavenly parent, then we go on to the next letter. We realize that the letter E represents the fact that we are all eternal sons and daughters of God. We are divine creatures. We have infinite potential to achieve anything that we put our thoughts and mind to. And we were meant to really kind of live out our lives in the fullest capacity. And when we see the letter A, the way I understand it is it represents altruism. This reminds us that we, as God's eternal sons and daughters, have a duty to live our life living for the sake of others, understanding that we exist for the other. We're not born just to be this singular phenomenon in the world. We are born for love. We are born to find our eternal partner, to create a beautiful family, and so on and so forth. And then the 4th letter, the letter C, symbolizes compassion, the word compassion. Not only do we have to understand that we need to live our life living for the sake of others, but we need to practice how to be a compassionate human being by practicing love and practicing empathy, the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes and still be able to be incredibly happy for that person and wishing the best upon that person. And then the last letter, the letter E, represents excellence. If we can do all of these things and remind ourselves that God is our Heavenly Parent, there's our anchor, boom. That we are His and her eternal sons and daughters, that becomes our proud identity of who we are, boom. And we remember that our lives, we are supposed to live for the sake of others, not just for our selfish gains, but for the benefit of others. Boom, that becomes really our life goal in terms of learning how to be this incredibly loving human being. And then if we remember that in order to live that life, we have to be a practicing compassionate person, in that all of these, lofty and wonderful words of love and compassion mean nothing if we don't practice it on a daily basis. So again, it reminds us that all of these things that we believe in must be put into our daily lives through practice. Boom. And then the last letters, really asking us to be excellent human beings internally and externally, meaning that we have to cultivate our internal quality of heart, but we also have to work on the way it is manifested externally. So for instance, if we happen to be a gifted musician, we can express that quality of heart, that beauty, that beautiful heart that allows us to tap into the divine and create beautiful symphonic works or beautiful music that can literally transform people's lives. We need to cultivate that on a daily basis and really allow our passions to manifest to the world at large, and therefore change the world by being the kind of excellent people that we can be. So when I remind myself of these things I was telling the young gentleman, and even if you don't believe in these 5 steps, just start saying them. Just start looking at your life in a totally different way. Instead of, I don't believe I had all of these things and negativity, start affirming these 5 points in your life. Instead of putting a disclaiming everything that matters in your life, start affirming and start practicing positive thought, positive thinking, reminding ourselves. Sometimes I've heard friends of mine saying, oh my goodness, I wish I was the daughter of that king or that queen. But much greater than that, we are the sons and daughters of God. How incredible is that? How powerful is that? And if we start focusing on this incredible gift of this life that we have been given, it really shouldn't matter what kind of a life we were born into. Even if we were born into the most miserable life and all we've known is anger, frustration, hurt, and hatred, that does not determine how we're going to finish the rest of our lives. And so, depending on what we decide to do, this exercising of 5% responsibility, taking control of our lives, meaning having an understanding of how our thought processes affect everything around us. So if we start with our thoughts and turn our negative thoughts from negative to positive, and turn our speech from complaint to gratitude, and turn our actions into selfish to embracing and nurturing and giving, it will be incredible what you will see in your life. And the incredible thing about this young man is that, he was saying, oh, that's just BS, and, you're just trying to put these little sound bites in my mind, and, you're not helping, and he just said a lot of awful things. But I said, regardless of how you feel, just try reminding yourself these 5 points Because really, you are not at peace. And at the end of the day, you want to be at peace with God. You want to be at peace with your parents. You want to be at peace with your siblings. You want to be at peace with the world. You want to be at peace even with your computer. So if you want peace, this is how you start on the journey to building the world of peace, starting with yourself. So please try it. And, of course, he walked out, saying, oh, it's BS, but kudos to this young gentleman. Something, I guess, in our meeting made him want to maybe give it a go or give it a try, and maybe to prove me wrong. That's probably the most compelling reason for this gentleman at that time. But whatever the reasons, he started doing that, and he realized that the world was not against him. The family was not against him. His siblings were not out to get him. And even his computer was not against him. He realized that it was really out of his own fear, of his own failure. He was afraid of failing when seemingly all his friends had their career track lined up and felt like they knew what they were going to do. But, maybe he was a late bloomer, and it's going to take him a little longer to figure out exactly what he is good at or exactly what he wants to do with his life. But he realized that it was the fear factor that basically propelled him to put up all these barriers and all these walls and prevented him from dealing with anybody in his life because he was afraid to fail. Well, the incredible thing about what True Father is trying to say, when I asked him the simple question, where does God live? And True Father said, God lives in your heart. Is that if God lives in your heart and in our hearts, there is no room for fear. Because regardless of what we go through in our life, God is always there in full partnership with us, helping us through our difficulties, rooting us on, even if we do not believe in ourselves. And the only thing that we really need to do is to maintain the quality of our hearts, the quality of love and of compassion and of empathy. And if we can do that on a daily basis, we can achieve anything that we really set our mind to. And, there's this beautiful quote that Father shared with brothers and sisters many years ago in 1986. And he says, many Christians think that because God is unique and absolute, or the supreme being, it is impossible for human beings to be in full partnership with God. They reason that creatures are profane while God is absolute and holy. Consider this matter from the concept of love. To form relationship of love, even the lofty and supreme God and lowly created beings must share common attributes of character. In order to love, they share the same heart. That is, the personal God must have the same qualities as the human personality. So when we listen to what Father is saying, he has given many examples of how it doesn't matter how lofty, for instance, a king may be. The minute he decides to love a servant girl, because of their same heart that allows them to communicate in love, she becomes his queen, no longer the servant. And many times we have a concept of or a negative concept of ourselves as worthless, meaningless human beings or lowly creatures. But what Father is teaching us and reminding us is we were born to be in full partnership with God, to share that same heart. So our 5% responsibility is to maintain that quality of heart so that we can continue to enjoy and converse with God in love and live happily ever after. So isn't that a beautiful message? I think it is. So live your life with dignity, with pride, and with love, because God is with you and me and with us each step of the way. And as long as we remind ourselves not to get stuck in the me, but to remind ourselves that it's the we in full partnership with God that is going to result in win-win relationship with whoever we engage in a relationship with in our lifetime. Then we can be an incredibly successful and an empowered and an inspired and a connected men and women of God. So with that in mind, have a blessed week. Thank you and take care.
Look into my eyes, you will see what you mean to me. Search your heart, search your soul. When you find me there, you'll search no more. You can tell me it's not worth trying for. You can tell me it's not worth dying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. Look into your heart, you will find there's nothing there to hide. Take me as I am, take my life. I would give it all, I'd sacrifice. And you can tell me it's not worth fighting for. You can tell me it's not worth dying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. There's no love like your love, and no other could give me more love. There's nowhere unless you're there all the time, all the way, yeah. You can tell me it's not worth trying for. I can't help it, there's nothing I want more. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. And I won't fight for you, I'd lie for you, walk the wire for you, I'll die for you. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you.
If you have any questions and comments, please leave them below the video or go to enginemoon.com and use the contact form. And don't forget to subscribe to our email list. And for those of you who want to contribute to our work here at iHome Church, please click on the donate button. Thank you. Bye-bye.